What's going on today, YouTubers? Welcome to another edition of Walking Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at a knife that I had been waiting for a while. It was a custom order from South Africa, and this is the Burger Knives EXK Plus. So I've done a video on the two other versions of this knife. There's the EXK Standard, or just EXK, and there's the EXK Frame Lock. And I've done videos on the EXK and EXK Frame Lock, which led me to want to have one of these EXK Pluses when I heard that they ride on bearings, and that kind of set me off on a little journey of trying to find one. And I came to find that they really don't sell them at dealers in the States that I've found. So I ended up contacting Trevor, who is the head of Burger Knives, to commission one. And I guess that was about a couple months ago, maybe 10 weeks, something like that. So real quick, I'm going to go over the specs, talk about the good and the bad, and then I'm going to kind of get into the whole process of, you know, how I had this made, etc. So the specs: we have a 2 3/4 inch blade. This is a Bowler N690. I guess kind of like a sheep's foot blade shape there. Sorry, it's raining out. I apologize for the water on the knife. You can see it's been given a really beautiful hand rub satin finish. He does very good work on the hand rub satin. A really nice edge, not as acute as I would like it. I'm probably going to go ahead and refinish the edge, but very sharp nonetheless. It does have a flat grind from about 3/4 of the way down. And you can see it's got that nice long top swedge that keeps the tip fairly thin as well. He does a great job on his edges. The secondary bevel here, the bevel and the secondary bevel are perfectly symmetrical. See if I can get a shot of that. Probably not. I guess you're gonna have to take my word for it. So really useful blade shape. The two EXKs that I had prior to this were kind of like drop point configuration, so I wanted to go with something different on this piece. The handles are 3.5 inches, I believe, 3 3/4 maybe, 3 3/4. Yeah, they're 3 3/4 long. We've got blue C-Tech bolsters, which I really love the look of. I ended up adding these on later in the production of the knife. We've got carbon fiber handle scales there, and that sits on top of the blue anodized titanium liners. Kind of ignore the pocket clip if you can. That's just a Benchmade clip that I had drilled out for this knife. The back spacer is also carbon fiber, so, you know, keeps the weight down a little bit. I don't know if I'd prefer an open build or not. That's one thing I guess I'll talk about on the good and the bad. So it is a liner lock, as you saw. Centering is perfect. This does ride on IKBS, so uncaged bearings. So, alright, we'll go ahead and get into the good and the bad here. The good: the action is incredibly smooth, as you would expect if you saw the frame lock video. The frame lock actually runs on caged bearings, and this runs on, like I said, IKBS. I guess I would give the edge as far as smoothness goes to this one. I mean, they're very close as far as smoothness goes, but I think this one probably has the edge just a little bit. The blade just kind of falls closed. The detent on this is probably a little lighter than the frame lock. I think that's obviously because this is a liner lock versus the frame lock. I'll give you a shot here of the lockup. Perfect lockup. Absolutely no lock stick whatsoever. The handles are extremely ergonomic, which doesn't change from EXK to EXK. This one is probably just a little bit thinner than the frame lock version, and if you get the EXK standard, that's actually even thinner because it's only a single liner. So yeah, I mean it's not what I would call a thick knife by any stretch, but it's not like super duper thin either. This is probably right there in that sweet spot of where you want it to be to fill out your hand, but also not take up too much pocket real estate. You can see I do have bigger hands, but this is extremely comfortable. I get a full 4-finger grip. The jimping up here is fantastic. It really locks your hand in, so well done there. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Oh, the amount of ways that you can actually open this knife is like crazy. You can kind of pinch it here between your 2 fingers and hold it back into your palm, flick it open that way. You can just pinch it back and flick it, obviously with the thumb, and then obviously you can roll it open as well. So plenty of ways to open this knife and play with it, which is definitely one of the things that has had me collecting front flippers recently. I mean, I've got some flippers recently, but I've kind of been focusing on these front flippers just because of how fun they are to play with, and that's unfortunately that's one of the most important things that I look at when I'm getting a pocket knife anymore. If I want just like a straight tool and nothing else, then I'd have my Sabenzas and stuff like that. But having a tool that can be fun to play with while you're, you know, sitting at home is definitely one of the perks of collecting knives. So I guess the bad, I wouldn't even call it bad, it's just a design choice. I'm not a huge fan of full back spacers. They can make it a little annoying to clean a knife. So that would be maybe one gripe I would have. Maybe don't go with a full back spacer, maybe just a half, or even standoffs would be better. Let's see, can I think of anything else that isn't perfect? I mean, look at the tolerances on this knife. There's bearings in there, and you can't fit a tissue paper between the blade and the liners. So he's milled out a pocket from the titanium, he's milled out a pocket from the blade for the bearings to ride. But the tolerances on these knives are so crazy tight. He really knows his shit when it's you know, time to put these things together. He does a fantastic job on the build quality. The lockup there is zero blade play. I couldn't get this thing to move if I grabbed it with a pair of pliers, and I've tried. That's one of the things I do when I get these knives is I kind of pull them back and forth and see if there's any blade wiggle at all. Why the hell am I sitting in the water? I'm following my dog, so apologies. I'm gonna have to get out of this little creek. Anyways, so yeah, as far as nitpicks go, I think the only one I have is probably the design choice to go with a full backspacer instead of a more open design like the frame lock is. The reason I switch out the pocket clip is his titanium spring clip. It works perfectly and it looks nice, probably nicer than this shitty job I did on the pocket clip from Benchmade. But I just like it to carry deeper. You know, I like it to carry. His carries with probably maybe this much sticking out of the pocket, which isn't a lot by any means for a pocket knife, but it's just a little bit more than I like, so I went ahead and modified a Benchmade clip for this. I really love the way you can kind of see through the C-Tech and you can see the pivot screw underneath. This is the first knife I think I've had with C-Tech on it, and I definitely do like the look of it. I'm not sure how it would work, like having a knife with full C-Tech scales. I don't know what the weight is like versus carbon fiber, etc., but definitely like the look of it. So that's pretty much the knife, good and bad. So I really want to talk about the process that I went through to get the knife. Originally I had bought I traded for a Gareth Bullshum Wari. That was the very first front flipper I ever received, and I was not a fan. I didn't like the way it, I didn't like the action, wasn't a huge fan of the size or the build. So I thought, you know, at the time, well, maybe front flippers aren't for me, especially the way he makes his front flipper on that model. It's sharp and it's not comfortable to use. But at the time, I had already ordered an EXK Standard from Blade HQ, and when that came, that completely, I did a 180 as far as front flippers go. I was like, this is what I thought a front flipper would be. It's like a flipper that you can, you know, flick the knife out and play with and stuff, but it's on the front. So the EXK Standard definitely changed my mind as far as me liking front flippers. So I decided to go ahead and look and see what else this company, Burger Knives, made, and I found that they made that exact model as a titanium frame lock with ball bearing pivot. The EXK Standard is like nylon washers. It's, you know, it's fine for that knife because it's such a thin, you know, kind of workhorse knife, but when you want to play constantly with the knife, you know, ball bearings definitely makes it a little bit more of an entertaining piece. So sorry, the pivot here is starting to get wet, and it's, I think, gumming things up a little bit. Anyways, so I went ahead and bought the frame lock version. Loved it, absolutely loved it, but I liked the look of the EXK Standard better. So I went ahead and checked out his maker's website, which is burgerknives.co.az, I think that's it. Anyways, I saw that he made a model called the EXK Plus. So I set about, you know, checking out different websites. I checked out Blade HQ, Knife Center, all the big ones, to see if I can find an EXK Plus. Well, they really don't sell them here. For whatever reason, when the vendors pick up his knives, they pick up the Standard, they pick up the frame lock version. He doesn't seem to make many of these, the EXK Plus. I don't know if that's because there hasn't been a huge demand for them. If it's because people rather would just go with the frame lock or the Standard and they don't want to pay the extra $100 for the Plus model. Whatever the reason may be, they're really not easy to find. So I decided to contact him directly. You know, I told him I was a fan of his knives. Could I get an EXK Plus made, etc., etc. And he said at the time he's not actually, he wasn't making any for a while. Was his basic response. But I kind of, like, you know, pleaded with him. I told him, whatever, I don't care. Let me just get on the list. And he let me. He did let me, you know, get in line for one of these things. And the cool thing about when you're buying an EXK Plus is you get to choose everything. You get to choose the scale material, bolster, blade material, you know, anodization color of the liners. Really pretty much anything you can imagine. Son of a bitch. Sorry about that. I walked through a huge spider web and had a spider crawling on me. Anyways, yeah, you get to choose pretty much anything you can imagine on the knife. You pretty much get to choose how it's made. So I went with the, originally I had asked for, I think, titanium bolsters. I definitely wanted the carbon fiber for the scales. And I think I chose M390 for the blade. Well, this has N690. Why is that? Well, I chose M390 before I really had been using his EXK Standard for a while. his EXK standard is made with N690. That's like the standard material for that knife. And I don't know if he makes it in any other steels. But he does such a good job on his N690. I thought, why go with the M390? I have other knives in M390. The frame lock that I have is in M390, so I may as well just go with the N690. It's a lot easier to sharpen. If you see my EXK standard, I've got a beautiful mirror polished edge that I put on it, and it was a breeze because the steel isn't super hard. You know, it's made to take a super fine edge. So definitely, I felt we're gonna go with the N690 on this one. So I switched that on him. I switched the bolster material to the blue C-Tech. There were definitely emails there where I was kind of like changing my mind back and forth from day to day. And to Trevor's absolute credit, he responded to every single email I sent him in an extremely timely fashion, most of the time that same day, if not, like, you know, maybe a day or two later. And he was the nicest guy. I mean, he was just absolutely a joy to deal with. I'm going to buy another one of his knives. I haven't decided, you know, what kind of. He makes a flipper called the Atlas that I'm going to be buying. I just haven't decided what kind of, you know, configuration I want yet. But he really is one of those makers that he doesn't care. You know, he doesn't care that you're emailing him 100 times. You're not bugging him because he loves talking about knives and he loves his craft, and it shows. It really shows in the final product. So I wanted to share that story with you guys. And I told you, you know, he wasn't going to be making them for a while. Well, from the day I emailed him the first time and ended up putting a down payment on one of these, I think I put down 300 bucks. From that day, 9 weeks later, I had this in my hand. And that was shipped from South Africa. So, you know, there was definitely some shipping time there too. So, he went out of his way to make a whole run of EXK Pluses just because I was bugging him about it. That's the kind of nice guy Trevor is. So, an absolutely beautiful knife that's, you know, just as much work of art, I think, as it is tool. And I think anybody would be absolutely thrilled to own one of these. All right, I've sung the praises of this guy enough for this video. I'm being poured on now. The raining is starting to pick up. So I'm going to end the video here. I apologize if it was a little bit long, if it was a little bit rambling, but hey, that's why you watch this channel, I guess. Take it easy, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.